For decades, consulting firms built one of the most profitable business models in corporate America. Hire thousands of ambitious graduates, work them to exhaustion, and charge clients millions for their research, spreadsheets, and PowerPoint presentations. The partners at the top collected all the profits. But now, AI can complete much of that junior work in minutes. Consulting firms say this will make their employees more productive, but they're already cutting traditional roles, shrinking project teams, and replacing generalists with engineers. Firms may survive this disruption, and partners might become even richer. But for analysts hoping to climb the pyramid, AI could destroy the career they signed up for. So how is AI changing the consulting industry? And will traditional consultants be able to survive the AI apocalypse? Let's get right into it. Consulting firms have always made money from the gap between what an analyst costs and what a client is willing to pay for their work. At the top of a project is a partner. The partner brings in the client, talks to executives, and approves the final recommendation. Underneath them is a large team of managers, associates, and analysts. Those analysts spend weeks reading reports, cleaning spreadsheets, and building PowerPoints. The partner may only spend a few hours each week on the project, but they can oversee several teams at once. That's where the money comes from. One partner can sell the work of dozens of junior employees while collecting a share of the profits from every project. The entire industry was built around keeping that pyramid full. Firms recruited thousands of ambitious college grads, worked them relentlessly, and charged clients several times what those employees were being paid. Most analysts eventually quit. A small group survives long enough to become managers, and an even smaller group reaches the top and becomes partners themselves. AI has started attacking the most important part of that system, the massive layer of junior analysts underneath the partners. An analyst can now give an AI system a folder containing earnings calls, market reports, interview transcripts, and internal documents. Within minutes, it can summarize the material, identify trends, and prepare the first draft of a presentation. That used to take several days of work, sometimes even several weeks. Researchers tested this with consultants from BCG. The consultants using GPT-4 completed more tasks, finished them around 25% faster, and produced higher quality work. But the technology still made serious mistakes when it faced a problem it did not understand, and that matters for a client. But it matters much less for the size of a project team. A manager can use AI to produce the first draft and then check the important parts. The firm may no longer need 4 analysts underneath them. It may only need 1. That creates an obvious opportunity for the partners. Imagine that a consulting firm normally charges $1 million for a project completed by 8 people. AI allows it to complete the same project with 4. The firm could cut the price in half, but it probably won't. It might lower the price to $900,000, tell the client that it's using an advanced AI delivery model, and keep most of the savings. The client pays slightly less while the partners make more money. But 4 consulting jobs disappear. But this only works while clients believe the final recommendation is still worth nearly $1 million. And that belief is starting to weaken. By the end of 2024, 58% of consulting clients expected prices to fall. 1 quarter earlier, that number was only 27%. Clients understand that AI is making work faster. Now, they're starting to ask why bills haven't fallen as well. A consulting company traditionally made more money by putting more people on a project and keeping them there for longer. A 15-person team generates more revenue than a 5-person team. A 12-week project generates more revenue than a 4-week one. AI makes the smaller and faster team more productive, and that sounds great, until the client asks to see the savings. Consulting firms are trying to avoid that conversation by changing what they sell. BCG has started linking part of its fees to the result of its largest AI projects. Instead of billing only for the number of consultants involved, they can collect more money if the project saves the client's money or improves performance. That protects the partner, but the analyst's hours become much less important. The industry may become more profitable with fewer consultants. It just won't be profitable for the people at the bottom. The consulting layoffs began before generative AI was good enough to replace entire project teams. Firms had hired too many people during the pandemic. Companies were spending heavily on cloud systems, supply chains, remote work, and digital transformations. Consultants assumed that demand would keep growing. Then interest rates rose, mergers slowed down, and companies started delaying expensive projects. The firms were left with thousands of consultants sitting on the bench. They were still collecting salaries, but they weren't producing billable work. McKinsey employed around 45,000 people at the beginning of 2023. By the middle of 2025, that number had fallen to roughly 40,000. The firm used back-office layoffs, stricter performance reviews, and normal employee turnover rather than announcing one giant round of layoffs. Those cuts were initially caused by overhiring and weak demand. AI gave the firms a reason to avoid replacing many of the people who left. A consulting firm no longer has to predict how many analysts it needs based on its busiest possible year. They can keep a smaller workforce, use AI when demand suddenly increases, and push remaining employees harder. That makes the bench much less useful. It also makes junior consultants easier to remove. Accenture made this especially clear in 2025. The company launched an $865 million restructuring program while retraining employees for AI-related work. The firm was still hiring, but it wanted engineers, data scientists, and people capable of installing complicated systems. A generalist who is good at research and PowerPoint has become a lot less valuable. PwC has started changing its hiring in the same way. Its US CEO said the company was recruiting fewer traditional consultants and accountants than it had 2 years before. More of these new jobs were going to engineers, data scientists, and machine learning specialists. The future consulting class could be much smaller. They'll also be expected to arrive much more prepared. PwC found that entry-level jobs heavily exposed to AI were 7 times more likely to demand skills normally associated with senior employees. Companies still want young workers, but they want them to show up with judgment, leadership, and strategic thinking before they have been given enough time to develop those skills. Consulting makes this problem even worse. Junior employees learned by doing the work that AI now handles. They learned how to spot a broken financial model by manually building those models. They learned which sources were unreliable by checking original documents. That work was boring, but it was also very effective training. A firm can now ask an analyst to review an AI-generated answer without ever teaching them how the answer was produced. The presentation looks clean and the numbers look believable, but the analyst may have no idea that the entire recommendation rests on a bad assumption. Firms still need experienced consultants who can catch those errors, but they may stop producing enough of them. The old pyramid created future partners through attrition, but a smaller analyst class means a much smaller pool of future managers and partners. Current partners don't have to worry about that immediately. They can use AI to supervise smaller teams, keep more projects moving at once, and protect their compensation. The damage arrives later, after an entire generation misses the experience that makes current partners valuable. But partners can still do very well during that transition. Deloitte's UK tech and transformation revenue fell 10% during its 2025 fiscal year. But average profit distribution per partner still increased by 4%, reaching just over £1 million. One part of the business was shrinking while the people at the top took home more. That doesn't prove that every consulting firm will follow the same path, but it does show how the incentives work. When revenue becomes harder to grow, the firm can protect partner profits by cutting the number of people sharing the work. Analysts used to believe that brutal hours were the price of eventually reaching the top. Now, they may be working those hours for a promotion ladder that is quietly being removed above them. The large firms face another problem. AI gives experienced consultants fewer reasons to remain inside them. A strong partner or an industry specialist used to need the firm's research department, analyst pool, global offices, and expensive internal systems. They needed an army underneath them to produce the work. Now, a small team can recreate part of that infrastructure with software. West Monroe demonstrated this in June 2026. The firm released free AI agents that can evaluate a company's expansion plans, business model risks, workforce strategy, and regulatory exposure. A user enters a company name and receives a strategy-style report. West Monroe tells potential clients to skip the expensive first draft. Traditional consultants used to sell that first draft for hundreds of thousands of dollars. West Monroe is now giving it away to attract implementation work. A smaller firm can go even further. It doesn't need giant offices or thousands of junior consultants waiting for assignments. AI can create the first version. one experienced consultant can check it, correct it, and speak directly to the client. This is a much better experience for many buyers. They pay less money, spend more time with senior people, and avoid funding the huge layer of analysts and internal bureaucracy attached to a traditional consulting firm. Unity Advisory was built around this idea. Former EY and PwC executives launched the company with $300 million of backing. The firm planned to use a smaller central cost base, AI-heavy delivery, and pricing tied more closely to the value produced for the client. These boutiques won't replace McKinsey on every project, but it can still take away from the cleanest and most profitable parts of the engagement. That leaves traditional firms with the hardest work, like implementation, regulatory compliance, and ongoing tech support. Those projects can generate enormous revenue, but they also require far more people, infrastructure, and risk. The industry is already moving in that direction. BCG says tech and AI now account for more than 40% of its revenue. Accenture reported almost $6 billion in generative AI bookings during its 2025 fiscal year. Those numbers make consulting firms look healthy, but the revenue is coming from a more difficult business. A strategy partner can produce millions of dollars for advice produced by a small team. An AI implementation needs engineers, software licenses, and cloud infrastructure. The firms are being pushed away from the high-margin business of selling opinions and toward the much messier business of making tech work. The best partners may decide that they don't need the firm anymore. They can leave, take a few trusted specialists with them, and use AI to replace most of the junior team. The remaining analysts lose from both directions. The large firms need fewer of them, and the new boutiques may barely hire them at all. The consulting firms that survive will probably look much smaller in the places where graduates are used to entering them. A project may still have a partner and a manager. Underneath them could be 2 experts, several engineers, and 1 analyst checking AI-generated work. The giant base of junior specialists starts disappearing, and that structure could be extremely profitable. The partner still controls the client relationship, provides the firm's reputation, and takes responsibility for the final recommendation. AI handles much of the research and production that used to require a large team. If the firm can keep its fees high, the savings flow upward. The partnership becomes richer while the path into the partnership becomes narrower. Consulting firms are already trying to turn their knowledge into products that can be sold repeatedly. PwC launched PwC One in March 2026. The platform combines PwC's internal methods, industry knowledge, compliance frameworks, and AI systems. The company wants clients to pay for continuous access to its expertise instead of hiring a new team every time a problem appears. A traditional project has to be staffed from scratch. Software can be sold to a client almost immediately. The firm stops acting like a collection of consultants and starts acting more like a software company with partners attached. That gives the largest firms a new way to protect themselves. They own years of client data and are deeply connected to the systems of major corporations and governments. They can turn that access into agents, subscriptions, monitoring tools, and managed services. The analyst who created much of that knowledge becomes less important once it's been integrated into that system. The firm keeps the asset, while analysts leave with a line on their resume. Investors are already nervous about how much of the old model will survive. By 2026, fears that AI would commoditize consulting and tech work had erased roughly $100 billion from the combined market value of Accenture and Cognizant. Those companies may continue growing. They can sell AI deployments, cybersecurity, software, and other tech features. They may even employ more people overall, but traditional analysts can still disappear inside that growth. Engineers replace generalists, and software replaces research teams. Experienced partners oversee more clients with fewer people underneath them. The firm will continue recruiting a small number of elite graduates, but those employees will be expected to understand finance, strategy, data, AI, and client politics from the moment they arrive. They'll compete for fewer promotions and get less basic training, and they'll be compared against software that works through the night, never asks for a raise, and can produce 50 versions of a presentation immediately. The winners are easy to identify. Consulting firms need senior partners with strong client relationships and technical specialists who can build and control the systems. The firm owns the data, software, and contracts. The old consulting analyst sits in the worst position. Their work is easiest to automate and their training is easiest to cut. Their place in the consulting pyramid mainly exists because partners once needed large teams beneath them, but that need is fading. The consulting industry may never experience one dramatic collapse, but the career that supported an entire business could slowly disappear. But consulting firms aren't the only companies trying to replace expensive employees with AI. Tech companies have been pushing AI coding tools for years, but instead of eliminating developers, the rollout has created a completely different set of problems. To see why replacing programmers with AI is going horribly wrong, click the video on screen.